Today we take a look at the second generation Ford Escort. The first generation, that was designed and built by two teams, one in Europe and one in the United States. The second generation also had the US team involved, but it brought a team from another ocean, the Pacific. They brought in Mazda to work on this car. It was based off the Mazda 323. Now this second generation car had some pretty big shoes to fill. The first generation Escort had been the best-selling car in America for 7 years in a row. So with all that out of the way, let's take a look at the second generation Ford Escort.
At Ford, we've anticipated the needs of a changing world by completely rethinking the way we make small cars, working to reduce our margin of error to zero. And in creating a new process, we created the new Ford Escort, designed and built to rival the best small cars in the world. Introducing the next Ford Escort, a new line of thought, a new line of cars.
Have you driven a Ford lately?
Introduced in April of 1990 as a 1991 model, the second generation Ford Escort was built on the Mazda B platform. This was a chassis used by Mazda for the 323 and Protege. The new Escort continued on as a front-wheel drive, but adopted an independent rear suspension and a rear anti-sway bar. The new Escort was styled to be more in line with other Ford cars, such as the Ford Taurus. It became more rounded. The grille was replaced with a flush insert, and engine cooling air was mostly provided by a gap under the front bumper. The cowl had been lowered to allow for better visibility. The windows became mostly flush with the body of the car, and the headlamps and tail lamps were slimmer in design. The interior of the car is where the Mazda design became more apparent. The seats, steering wheel, vents, and many driver controls were directly taken from Mazda. Ford stayed consistent with its model lineup, offering the Escort in a 2-door hatchback, a 4-door hatchback, a 5-door wagon, and the 2-door GT. Trim levels included the base Pony, the LX, LX Wagon, or Escort GT. The driveline for the second generation Escort Pony and LX was a carryover from the first generation Escort, with Ford offering the 88 horsepower, 1.9-liter inline 4-cylinder. New for 1991 was sequential electronic fuel injection. This was mated to a standard 5-speed manual transaxle with a 4-speed automatic transaxle offered as an option. The Escort Pony was the base model, and Ford limited the Pony's option list. Popular options such as air conditioning and power steering were not available from the factory on an Escort Pony. The LX trim level offered an overall nicer interior trim level. Standard features included electronic remote mirrors, engine, map, visor mirrors, and cargo area lighting, split 40/60 folding rear seats, cloth inserts for door panels and seating surfaces, a standard AM/FM radio, and body side protective molding. Available options included air conditioning, power steering, speed control, power door locks, a tilt steering wheel, a rear window defroster, a power moonroof, and an AM/FM cassette player. The Ford Escort GT was now powered by a 127 horsepower double overhead cam Mazda 1.8-liter inline 4-cylinder, which was mated to a 5-speed manual transaxle, and an automatic transaxle was optional. The Escort GT offered the longest list of standard features. It included all of the LX features, plus power steering, air conditioning, power door locks, speed control, a tilt steering wheel, a tachometer, and an AM/FM cassette player. Items only found on the GT included sport seats with side bolsters, fog lamps, 4-wheel disc brakes, 15-inch aluminum wheels with P185/60 HR 15-inch performance tires, front and rear spoilers, offset grille insert air inlets, and special body side cladding. The GT clocked 0 to 60 times of 8.1 seconds, making it one of the quickest cars in its class. The second generation of Escort was well received by the automotive press overall. it was considered a nicer car overall than the outgoing first generation and a great value when compared to other cars in its class. The car buying public seemed to agree, as Ford delivered 354,726 Escorts for the 1991 model year. Now, I need to point out here that the 1991 model production run lasted 16 months. September 1991, Ford introduces the 1992 Escorts, and there were changes. Ford introduced a four-door sedan to the Escort lineup. It was available as an LX or as a performance-inspired LXE. The LXE was equipped with many of the Escort GT's performance items, such as four-wheel disc brakes, larger front brakes, a larger clutch, equal-length drive shafts, larger anti-roll bars, a dual-outlet exhaust, a sport interior, and the 127 horsepower 1.8-liter double overhead cam engine. Ford dropped the pony trim level and simply used the term standard for its base level Escort. The Escort GT received full-width tail lamps. There were no other changes of note. Ford dealers delivered 259,690 Escorts for the 1992 model year. The 1993 model year brings few changes to the Escort lineup. The LXE is dropped as a model. For non-LX wagons, a Sport Appearance option package was introduced. This included 14-inch alloy wheels, a deck lid spoiler, and the full-width tail lamps used by the Escort GT. There were no other changes of note. Ford delivers 375,705 Escorts for the 1993 model year. 1994 is mostly a carryover year for the Escort. Ford does add a driver's side airbag, however the motorized passive restraint seatbelts are retained. There are no other changes of note. Ford delivers 295,149 Escorts for the 1994 model year.
Stuff. We all want stuff. And when we buy a new car, we want all the stuff. Dual airbags, power steering, power mirrors, air conditioning, a stereo, automatic transmission, a place to put a cup of coffee, convenience stuff. What's really great is that you can get all this stuff on any of these Escorts for the same low price. That's called value. Escort is a great value. Compared stuff to its leading competition, Escort costs less, period. Ford Escort. Good stuff, great price.
The 1995 model year brings dual airbags to the Escort, which required a redesign of the dashboard. The motorized seatbelts were once again retained, although they were no longer required by U.S. law. There are no other changes of note, and Ford delivers 320,781 Escorts for the 1995 model year. 1996 brought no changes of note to the Escort, and the run of 1996 models was a limited production run, as a new third generation of Escort was being introduced for 1997. Ford delivers 125,409 Escorts for the 1996 model year. Now, I started this video talking about how the second generation of Escort was no longer a collaboration between the teams in Europe and those in the US. In Europe, this was actually the fifth generation of Ford Escort, and it was a much sportier car there than it ever was here. Ford of Europe produced 2,500 street-legal Ford Escort RS Cosworths. These were 225 horsepower cars, Escort hatchbacks, that were capable of going 150 miles per hour. Now, I don't have the performance figures for these cars, but 225 horsepower is about what the Mustang GT of the era put out, so I have to assume that Escort put down some really good numbers. Now, this Escort never took the sales crown of #1 selling car in America. In '91, it lost out to Honda's Accord. Every year after that, it was owned by one of its sister cars, the Ford Taurus. That said, it was really close almost every year it was in production. I personally wish Ford would build a car like the Escort again. In 2018, Ford ceased production of these types of cars because they just weren't profitable. At the time, the SUV was both popular and profitable, so that's where Ford went. However, the only constant in the universe is change, and I can see things coming back around to this type of car. To have something that's inexpensive to buy, inexpensive to operate, and inexpensive to maintain should be something that the world's looking for yet again. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. That helps other people see it. Also, consider subscribing. There's plenty of content like this on my channel, like this video right over here. It's on the Ford EXP and Mercury LN7. That was the sister car to the first generation Escort. That's it for now. Thanks for watching. Until next time, we'll see you.